in the 196th BlockTalks, we speak with Alena Afanaseva, CEO and founder of BeInCrypto, who talks about building reliability in an increasingly noisy world. I'm your host, Mauricio Magaldi, and this is Blockdrops, your weekly digest on blockchain for business. These news are not a form of endorsement, sponsorship, or encouragement for consumption, and are meant for educational purposes only. All right, everybody. I'm here with Alena Afanaseva, who's going to tell us who she is and what she does with blockchain. Alena, welcome to BlockTalks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today. I'm CEO and founder of BeInCrypto Media, one of the biggest crypto news outlets in the world. We are covering news and producing educational content and some analytical and providing some analytical data for people from 26 countries. We have almost 200 people working for BeInCrypto from more than 60 countries. And our mission is basically to simplify the first steps for non-experienced users, to explain what Web3 space is, to remove any fears, to make it more accessible for everyone.
I love that. And I so much subscribe to the same mission. But let us give the audience a little bit of your superhero origin story. What is your background? When did you find crypto? What was it? And what triggered the will to be in the industry?
Yeah, my experience is a little bit more traditional, I think. I know that a lot of people join the crypto space from fintech. So my background is fintech. I'm coming from traditional finance. I have more than decade of experience as a fundamental analyst, working specifically with commodities, stock market, and forex. And it was quite natural for me to start analyzing digital currencies. When I first learned about Bitcoin, I think it was around 2013. And being a fundamental analyst, I tried to use these techniques and this approach to Bitcoin, but obviously it didn't work those times. It still doesn't work the same way as in traditional finance right now. But yeah, I got really interested. I got fascinated with the whole idea of this freedom, transparency, and uh, even even like from my traditional experience, the whole point of markets working from Monday to Friday, and then you have Saturday and Sunday for the rest. For me, it was kind of counterproductive. So Bitcoin immediately resolved the problem and brought us uh, 24 per 7 experience. And I'm still enjoying it right now. If we come closer to the how it all started with BeInCrypto, so yeah, I started to analyze digital currencies, and then a friend of mine got into ICO craze, if you remember those times. Uh, Everybody does. So it was somewhere around 2017, 2018, and she was leading her PR agency. And she was just asking me to help her out, to explain something, to check the white papers she got during this um, ICO boom. And then I started to read white papers. I was impressed with some of the ideas. They basically, I don't know, changed the whole perception of the way the financial system could be, the healthcare could be changed, and many other things, like really, really inspiring. And then many white papers that looked like shit, and that it had nothing to do with blockchain, with decentralization, with anything of that kind. It was the tool to acquire additional money. And that was the pain which I realized at those times. There were many news outlets, but they more looked like blogs. And there was no regional reporting, like real journalism approach, nothing of that kind. So basically, I think most of the players of the market in the news outlets field uh, got paid for promoting some weird projects. So we came up with the idea of being crypto, understanding this big potential of blockchain product projects and the need for reliable information in the industry. So we put a bet on that, focusing more on unbased news coverage. We worked without any banners, any paid media promotions during the first half of the Bean Crypto existence. And it worked. So 7 years later, here we are, top three by audience, top one by coverage in terms of languages. And I think we are doing a really good job expanding it to many more languages because obviously the information is accessible in English, but not that accessible in other languages.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that kind of also resonates with me because I also have this dual language thing that I do with a podcast, and it's very special when people realize they can learn about something global in their own native language that they don't have to necessarily go through the pain, especially in the global south where languages are not necessarily something people really care about, like foreign languages. I think that's a very important perspective. Now, in this journey, I mean, 2013. That's very OG of you to have started paying attention to the market. Then, um, from all these years in the industry, what are the things that you saw that are first appalling, in the sense that they're like horrible that we did as an industry, and what were the things that you feel are, you know, at least matching the ethos of decentralization and inclusion in the things that we were attracted originally by the industry. What are the things that amazed you over the years? So first, what were the major things that you saw that were disastrous or damaging, and what were the things that you were amazed by?
It gives you a lot of opportunities, the whole industry and the technology that we are offered, but at the same time there is a lot of abuse of technology and a lot of misleading information, a lot of manipulation, which honestly disappoints me a lot. Even uh, during all these years when the regulation is becoming stricter and stricter with all the changes in the approach with new projects, like really fascinating projects, we still have the cases that people are getting misled. Rug pulls are still here. There are some cases when high level opinion leaders, you know whom I mean, like the most powerful ones in the global arena, they also playing with this with people uh, not awareness, I think, of some of the things, basically moving them into the wrong narrative, into the wrong direction. Um, and it kills the reputation. So this is probably the most horrible thing for me, because very cool idea of rebuilding the not only the financial system, but the whole system of how we manage things, how we communicate with each other, how we transfer the rights, money, ownership, whatever. Um, there are so many things that we could have done together, but all of that is been damaged by bad examples of rug pulls, of exaggerated expectations, of distorted perception. And if you are talking about crypto in a traditional world, there is this feeling that they do not trust you, like you are doing some weird stuff, and it's not weird in the sense of geeky. It's more like you are trying to mislead somebody. Yeah, and this is very disappointing.
I absolutely think that permissionlessness brings both the best and the worst in people. And because we live in an era of social media, we also tend to exacerbate the worst because it moves faster in the era of social media. So people react much more viscerally to the bad news than they do with the good news, right? And I think that's kind of also contextual. But on the other end, what were the great examples of the technology applications that you've seen over the years? You mentioned Bitcoin, that was the first attraction, but over the introduction of other blockchains, programmable blockchains, scalable blockchains, what were the examples of the industry being well represented in its ability to innovate and solve problems?
Yeah, I have a very practical case. I'm traveling a lot. Currently, I live in Argentina. And honestly, when I lived in Europe, I didn't realize how diverse is Latin American environment from the perspective of the state of economies. So when we focus on Spanish language and Spanish subdomain, we kind of covered everything related to Spain with the focus on Spain. And then I'm coming to Argentina and I start living here and I start reading news, um, talking to people, and I realized that something that looks like a toy, an opportunity to get a higher uh, percentage in this new environment in Spain. In Argentina, it's the case of survival, it's the case of hedging against inflation, which has been at crazy levels for quite some time. And then it kind of like the best use case you can ever imagine. So economy is pretty weak. Yeah, it's changing right now, and we see some positive developments. But um, 5 years ago, when I came here, it was absolutely different. And then like, the inflation could be like, I don't know, 100% per year. And then the banking system is so weak that it doesn't allow you, or it didn't, maybe it has changed right now. It didn't allow you to buy US dollars as a hedge against inflation. And even if you buy, it's limited to $200. And then you are supposed to pay a tax on that, or a commission of like 25% or something. I could be wrong about numbers, but the general concept is like that. So it means that every month your income is decreasing, is devaluated, but you have no tools to protect your funds. And the only tool was stablecoin. So 3 years ago it was DAI, and then it became USDT. But for me, this is the fascinating use case that helps people who are surviving to protect their money. And you also know about Latin America, probably about huge share of bankless population. So this way you don't need banks because banks are obsolete here. Banks do not deliver what they expected. Banks create even more problems and discrimination. And then there is also a solution, you know?
I think that's probably the killer use case today is accessibility to stable coin anywhere in the world. I think the global south in that perspective leads adoption because it solves real problems. And when technology solves real problems, then adoption follows. And I think that's why we've seen. We're recording this mid-May. The last month and a half, all headlines were pretty. The ones that were not about AI were about stable coins, right? And we're seeing that pick up more and more. Now, that is an amazing perspective. What are the things that you've experienced as you managed the growth of the launch and the growth of being crypto that were challenging for you coming from your background and then all of a sudden being an entrepreneur, a founder, running a global business out of Argentina? What were the top challenges and how did you turn them around and kept going?
Um, I think the biggest challenge was to build this decentralized environment and to find the right people. 7 years ago, the challenge was to find people who at least read something about crypto, not not just filtering people like you are doing it right now. But those times, very few people were interested in the whole technology. So the starting point was there. And then when we started to grow and when I realized that we are more than 100 people already and there were I don't know, maybe like 30 countries, we also realized that it's really hard to build the communication. It's not because of these whole remote nature, because we used all these tools like Slack, that and Notion and Miro that connects people all over the world, but it's more like the mentality, the way people express themselves. We obviously speak English as our corporate language, but not everybody speaks language natively, and not everybody is able to communicate the opinions and the ideas the way others are able to perceive it. So, yeah, I think the first challenge was to build the HR system that we haven't started before being 3 years old, I think. So by that time, it was a mess and it was a chaos of a startup. It was funny, it was emotional, energetic, but at the same time, we realized that it's not going to work like that anymore. It's becoming too chaotic and slow. So, yeah, that was one of the stages. And then the new stage right now, I think, fighting AI in the sense of how it's used by people. We can see that a lot of fake profiles popping up even when we are hiring. And it's getting harder and harder to understand who is the real one, and who is using the ChatGPT for going through probation period and tasks that we are offering. And then in the media space, being focused on covering news, you also need to be very careful with the way you produce news. And sometimes you are not able even to control if somebody in one part of the world is uh, writing it or using ChatGPT to create another news.
Wow. It's so disruptive. And it's funny. I keep repeating myself. I keep saying AI needs blockchain. And I think your example in your specific industry is such a powerful example, because even something that we pretty much take for granted, which is, a headline in a piece of news, there's a lot of work put in there. Like there's a journalist, maybe a photographer, maybe a digital artist, and they're actually checking their sources and confirming the veracity of the facts that they're trying to raise. And all of a sudden you have a bot scraping your website and creating what would be a bastardized version, probably worsely written, than what you were able to do. So it's yeah, I hear you, and I think even in that space, I think there's an opportunity for blockchain, given the traceability, auditability, and the publicity of the infrastructure to come into play and make something better. In that, I think I must ask, what is the type of tools? Because you mentioned your background as an analyst, and I have to assume that you are data driven. What are the types of tools that you guys use on the day to day on the on chain analytics? Is there any particular tools that you are most excited? And I can only also assume, and I'm hoping you can confirm or explain and elaborate what what type of AI tools you're actually benefiting from.
There is a bunch of tools, of course, used by different departments that we have in the company. And I think I'm not even aware of all of them. Um, from the side of analytics, I think we are using all the tools that our partners are offering to us, because we are long-term partners with TradingView, with CoinGecko, with Into the Block, and many other amazing companies that are much better in analysis than we are. So yeah, our analysts are partnering with the teams from there. Regarding the AI tools, it's definitely ChatGPT is helping to work with plagiarism, is helping to speed up the research part. So our approach regarding AI is not like fighting against it. It's like internet. I don't know. It's like television. It's like many other things that disrupted the state of our life before. So obviously, it is already part of our uh, everyday life, but it should not replace journalism. It should make it better, faster, and improve the quality in some parts. Uh, so we are testing something with AI agents, obviously. We do use the AI tools to retrieve data, to work with interviews. For example, like at some of the events and conferences, we are getting a lot of interviews, and you are not able even to process this amount of content. So it helps us. Uh, and the research of the additional sources, if we are finding some news lead and we are not sure if it's the right one, to fact check, to understand where it's coming from. We also use our own tools to identify other sources that are confirming or giving you the right angle of the source of the information. And obviously, all our designers are using Midjourney. It's something. It's a must for any design team, I think, currently.
No, I understand. I mean, you have to maximize things that are optimized by partners. Absolutely. In the sense that we're seeing a lot of, I want to say, excitement about potential developments in crypto regulation. What is your take in that particular space? None of us are lawyers. I assume you're not a lawyer. But regulation seems to be the talk of the town, whether it's excessive constraint on a particular jurisdiction, or excess relaxation on another, or the creation of a dedicated regulator agency, or even the extinction of potentially regulator agencies. Like, there's all sorts of movements around the world in different jurisdictions. What is your current perspective, and maybe even a little bit of, futurism? What would be in your mind a convergent ideal scenario for us in the months and years to come with regards to regulation?
I think it's going to depend on the economies that apply this regulation. So we definitely see right now that some of the economies are taking it as an opportunity to build a new foundation and to become stronger. I think in the case of El Salvador, it's definitely the way to go in the circumstances than where you do not have extensive resources, and where your um, country uh, requires some big changes. So I think it's a good bet, and especially the direction of regulation that they are moving in right now, and even building the foundation for the whole LATAM region. That's a very interesting direction. And I think for emerging economies, for unstable economies, it's a big opportunity to build kind of like a new long-term strategy and to find your USP in this changing world. Um, I think in some way, the United Arab Emirates are doing really huge steps, kind of rethinking how the regulation should look like in this new world. And I really love the speed and um, the tools they are using for that. Uh, I think it's very interesting, and I'm watching right now. And like you said, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm getting, as the representative of media, I'm getting a lot of positive feedbacks regarding the way VARA is doing, and IDGM in Abu Dhabi is moving on. So definitely something to see, and could be a good foundation there. Then with the United States, we see there's ups and downs, and I hope we are in this mode right now. It was pretty scary for previous years, and quite disappointing, especially with the cases that could kill the whole vibe of coding um, in community. I mean, the case of Tornado Cash, especially. Um, so right now, I'm happy that we got a little bit of relief. I'm still watching it because it's changing so fast and it's so volatile. But definitely a lot of positivity. You can even feel in the space attending the events and uh, chatting behind the scenes, what do we put a bet on? Regarding some regulation in more traditional economies, in European ones, I'm not sure how it's gonna work because there are lots of constraints, and it feels like it's going according to the traditional approach of TradFi. And I'm coming from TradFi, so I know there is a lot of compliance, regulation, and many other things. And it's okay for the industry that is, I don't know, 100-year old, but for the newly developed industry, you are putting so many constraints and barriers. You kind of gonna suffocate the new companies, the startups. You're gonna kill the whole idea at the very beginning if you're gonna put too many limits and not gonna support the smaller companies. So this is my concern there. So I think thinking about the future, the winners will be those who are more flexible, who are supportive, but at the same time understand the risks of the industry and protect the users, but in a very balanced way.
As a Brazilian, I have been very vocal about what I think the Brazilian central bank is doing right and what they're doing not quite so right. Um, and I agree with you. If you don't have nuanced regulation, you kill the small guy who's the absolute harbinger of innovation. And if you do that, you're going to lose the ability to move fast and compete in the global stage, which crypto is global, digital, borderless, 24/7. You can't afford not to not be in that particular space when things are happening. And I absolutely agree with your perspective.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I forgot to mention Brazil as an example, but that's very interesting that the central bank is doing and with blockchain technology and with pilot projects that they are building right now. So I'm impressed how it was, how fast it was developing. So, being a Brazilian, maybe you can give me a little bit more insights on that part. Is it moving the right way? Do you feel it's innovative enough and supportive enough right now?
So the Brazilian central bank has been at the forefront of central bank innovation for many years. Even before the start of my professional career, the Brazilian central bank has an amazing track record of pushing for technology innovation. Brazil is a continental country. All the numbers are very big. So even in the early days of technology, the Brazilian central bank and the banks were forced to be able to process an ungodly amount of data in a variety of capacities. So yes, the Brazilian central bank has been um, at that, and I'll tell you that the latest very successful innovation was Pix,
Yeah.
which is the instant payment, centralized instant payment platform that the central bank launched 5 years ago, I think.
That is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, the project you're referring to, I think, is the Drex. Drex is the Brazilian central bank's digital currency. Um, right now, they're in phase three, I believe, and they are now sourcing for specific use cases. That particular project is a little bit hung up on the fact that they're using a Bezu EVM implementation, and with that, they cannot um, subscribe to the Banking Secrecy Act and the Brazilian version of GDPR, because that is a public chain through and through, even if it's a permission chain. So that put a little bit of a delay into the plans of the central bank to formally launch a CBDC, but I'm pretty sure that the investigation of potential complementary technologies, privacy enhancing technologies, will yield some form of benefit. I am not a big fan of retail CBDCs. I'll be very honest. I think retail CBDCs echo state surveillance, but I'm 100% in favor of wholesale CBDC because there is a absolute inefficiency moving money in large volumes internationally, which a wholesale CBDC network or networks in the world would make sense. Which, to a certain extent, is a competition on the space of stablecoins, which are a very different construct. So, yeah, there's a little bit. It's not exactly an answer, but this is the current state of affairs. As I speak with my fellow Brazilians from time to time to understand what the hell is going on down there. So Yeah. We are absolutely approaching the end of our time, and I do not want to hold you longer. Um, Three things, three last questions. The first one is, this is a 24/7 industry. How do you keep yourself healthy, and how do you not go crazy working in crypto?
Who says I'm not crazy? I am. Everybody is here. I'm a good planner of my life, I think. So I have two kids. I have my husband. I have my team members. I'm traveling a lot. I'm attending conferences. But whatever happens in my life, it's all in my calendar. So, so this way I can make sure that I dedicate enough time to my family, to my health, to my work as well, to my team, and many other things that I want to still have in my life. So I think the biggest approach is, yeah, to properly manage everything regarding time, schedule, and your and be honest with your capacities. And of course, regular sport is something that it's not like a sport jogging once or having 10,000 steps in crypto event, but more like regular routine when you have your yoga at least 2 times per week. This is something that keeps me energetic, and of course I understand that I need more time to dedicate to that, but maybe later on I will do. Right now we live in such a fast moving environment that you still have this FOMO that something is going on and you are not putting enough attention to that. So that's my formula. Management, time management, planning, Google Calendar, and a little bit of yoga. That helps to keep me alive here.
No, I'm also a big fan of the Google Calendar. Even my family knows that if it has to be done, it has to be on my Google Calendar. So it is also a very uh, interesting form of communication. Um, as we evolve as an industry, what is the one thing that we must address right now and fix to avoid wasting another 20 years and then realizing we didn't fix that and we are back at square one? What's that one thing and why?
That's an interesting question. I think, since I'm coming from TradFi, I think financial system, the way it was built hundred of years ago, it doesn't make sense. It's it used to be your supporter and protector. It used to be the only ex possible accessible tool, but right now, with the current development, it's rather becoming a constraint. And if the financial system, the banking system specifically, is not changing, is not applying the new requests of the world when we are so global, when we are so fast, when we want to do multiple things at the time, and we at the same time to make sure that your money are not lost somewhere on the way from one country to another. I think this is something that's supposed to be done and implemented, like, I don't know, 5 years ago. And I think the banking system is too slow to realize it, to understand that we don't want to. If we don't want to wait till Monday if we want to send something on Saturday and Sunday. Uh, I think that's like the most important thing, and kind of the consequence of that is definitely UX. We are talking about all these complicated things and very sophisticated technology, but me having the mission of increasing the speed of mass adoption, uh, can confirm that the biggest barrier right now is a terrible UX experience, user experience, and UI of crypto projects. Even the centralized crypto exchanges, the biggest in the world, still feel not native for a regular person who is not from this industry. And I think you understand what I'm talking about if we ask your mother or your friends from the other world.
It's funny you say this because 3 years ago I wrote an article, and in that article I listed three things that needed to be solved for Web3 adoption. The first one was user experience, the other one was regulatory integration, and the third one was education. And not just education for users, but for regulators, builders, policymakers, and the industry itself. It's regulation and education must walk hand in hand with innovative industries. And I love that you picked user experience. Um, in the sense that you're focused on educating to drive adoption, what is the usual welcome to crypto kit you tell people to go after? Like if people reach out to you, say, Alena, I give up. I will give in and I will join crypto. Where do I start? What's your usual answer to that?
I you usually say start reading Being Crypto. I mean, uh, there are some things that we wrote 3 or 5 years ago that are outdated already, and they are not applicable for somebody who wants to join the industry right now. So you probably don't need to go back to the tons of information of the past. But if you understand that you are interested, if you start your daily routine with just reviewing what's happening in the market, reading the news, identifying the content that is of interest for you, that triggers your attention, that's probably the way to go, because we just do not inform people. We also inspire them. We also give them some new food for thoughts, uh, offering the opportunity to reimagine the way your career is going to be, the way your industry is going to be in a couple of years, in 10 years. And if you don't know something, you can go deeper to read something educational. We have the educational section at our website, so you probably can go deeper to understand the terminology, to understand what would be the first steps, and many other things. But first idea, uh, first step is to start reading, and then you will identify what inspires you and what feels like something too geeky and terrifying.
I wouldn't expect less than go go read Being Crypto. Thank you so much. This was really really interesting to understand from a non-tech builder what to build and how to build and what the story is in the industry. Thank you so much. Other than Being Crypto, how can people stay abreast of what's going on with you and what you do?
I'm a not super social person, unfortunately, because I still need to keep my balance with the work and life. But I do uh, give some updates regarding where I am, what conference I am attending, what happened with Being Crypto in LinkedIn. So that's my go-to social media so far, and it's Alena Afanaseva, being crypto media, and I think you can easily find me there.
Awesome. And we'll share the link on the show notes as well. Alena, thank you so much. This was awesome. I appreciate you taking the time with us. And yes, hopefully we meet up in a conference around the world at some point.
Thank you so much, Marisa, for inviting me. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you so much. Catch us online. We're on Instagram at BlockDropsPodcast, on Twitter at BlockDropsPod or 0x Mauricio, We're on Lens at blockdrops.lens. We have a newsletter on LinkedIn. Write to us at blockdropspodcast@gmail.com, and you can listen to the Blockdrops podcast at Spotify, iColab, Faberbun Tech, and all of the other major streaming platforms. Yay! Shout out to Alena for being such an OG in crypto and focusing on the right things to propel Web3 adoption. Don't forget to leave the ratings on your favorite player and check out the merch store at blockdropspodcast.xyz. This is all for today. Stay rare, stay weird. LFJ.